my boy had this big tangent, and now I just really wanted to be able to get in with this with you all.
They're just
Oh, that was such a nasty, disrespectful dunk, man. I love it.
They're good. They're good. If there's some sidekick rings, if there's some sidekick rings,
I think Scotty's rings are just the same as Michael Jordan's. Why not?
Because he won the best player on the team.
Yeah, but he was the most impactful player on the team.
I get it.
What do you mean?
Oh man, you motherfucker!
Listen, I get it.
If you unplug Scottie Pippen off that team,
Sure.
Jordan's 0 for 6.
Sure.
Could
well,
be.
Who knows?
Replace
Replace Scottie Pippen with another All-Star. No one does it without another All-Star.
No,
Replace
you
him
got
with another All-Star. He's going to win more than one.
You can replace him with another All-Star, but just because he's an All-Star don't mean it's Scottie Pippen.
No question. I'm not saying
right.
I'm saying
how many All-Stars are going to be willing to take a back seat knowing
100% of every All-Star who ever lived.
That's not true.
If you're playing with Jordan, you got no choice.
No, that's not true because, again, this is where you got to really dive into the type of player. You're talking about just All-Star, okay? Remove that All-Star.
I'm going first on this one.
6'9", that plays
my blood is boiling.
That is 6'7", whatever. He got a 7'3" wingspan, right? He can initiate the offense. The best. You had 3 guys on that team: Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, that were on the all defensive team.
Yeah,
3.
Ron Harper should have been on it too.
Ron Harper, and that was after Harp had the knee issue.
I don't care what anyone says. Dennis Rodman, greatest defender I've ever seen. Yeah.
No one's arguing with that. Pippen. No. Well, again, so you had 2 guys who you can argue that was the greatest defensive player you ever seen.
No question.
I'm not discrediting anything. All I'm saying is I also don't agree with you guys.
You are discrediting
what Steph rings isn't because.
Right.
They're
just right. Scottie Pippen rings, those 6.
All right. With that being said, how do y'all feel about Rich Paul basically saying, pretty much, Bulls ain't shit without Scottie Pippen? Pretty much, that's what he said. You ain't winning those titles.
So, you have the floor, Titus. That's you, man.
Here's the problem, man. See, this is the problem, man, and this is what's been going on. Number one, you got Rich Paul, who's nothing but a mouthpiece for LeBron, and you see this a lot with the Nick Wrights, the Shannon Sharp, and Isaiah Thomas, because you don't like Michael Jordan. You see this little weird obsession of this fake love for Scottie Pippen, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's fake love. You don't love Scottie Pippen as much as you claim to do. You only love Scottie Pippen whenever you're trying to find a way to diminish Michael Jordan's legacy. And coming from somebody who's the CEO of Clutch Sport, that's represented by LeBron, they do a lot of this to try to keep this conversation going between him and Jordan, which I find very odd because it's a lot of disrespect if you ask me. I don't understand how you go your whole career ran the number 23, idolizing Jordan, but yet you have all these paid motherfuckers on TV who get on TV and try to pump you up and try to diminish Jordan. So as I told Sasha before, and I'll state the facts, and maybe even school the little young kid, I shouldn't say kid, sorry, that might have come off a little disrespectful, but the young buck in that era, because this is what they're doing. They're trying to manipulate the young minds who didn't really see Jordan during his heyday and say this guy wouldn't have been all this if it wasn't for this guy, blah blah blah. And they only tell you part of the story instead of the full story. Scottie Pippen, quite simply, he was not like that when he first came into the league. The number one thing that I hear all these clutch guys always bring up all the time is Jordan never got out of the first round before Pippen got there. But they don't tell you that in that series against the Cleveland Cavaliers, because I'm from outside of Chicago, born and raised, so I know this for a fact, and I know what was said about Scottie Pippen locally. He was soft, okay? He wasn't that very good of a player his first 3 years. He grew into being a good player. But that year that they finally got out of the first round, Jordan averaged 45 points in that series. Pippen only averaged 10. That's not a major contributor for somebody that you sit there and say, oh, well, Jordan couldn't have done this without this guy. Tell me where they have all these shows in 2026 where they would be giving a guy so much credit for only averaging 10 points per game. The truth is, the reason why Jordan was finally able to win a playoff series is because he didn't have to play the fucking Boston Celtics in the first round like he had to those 2 years when he couldn't get out the first round. And that Celtics team won the title 1 year and turned around and lost in the NBA Finals the very next year.
Yep.
Scottie Pippen, man, 6 finals that he's played with Michael Jordan, and not once did he ever come out and be an MVP. Not once. How do you make an argument, try to make it seem like this guy's on the same 6 finals, and he was never good enough in the finals to ever even win a finals MVP? We've seen Andre Iguodala win an MVP in full with a bunch of Hall of Famers and Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. Hell, Kawhi Leonard won an MVP being around Ginobili Parker and Tim Duncan as a third option. He's supposed to be the second best player and the second best player in the league, and he was never good enough to at least win 1 finals MVP with Jordan. Not one. Look, Scott, and the other thing that bothers me too, it's always Jordan couldn't win without Pip. Scottie Pippen had his chance when Jordan was retired. What happened? Bulls didn't win a title. Then the year after that, before Michael Jordan came back mid-season, they were just barely a 500 team. Scottie Pippen, the way they talk about Scottie Pippen, it's almost, I would think that he's Kawhi Leonard. Because really Kawhi Leonard is really what Scottie Pippen is, what people try to make Scottie Pippen out to be. Kawhi Leonard is the guy who's got 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. Pippen don't. Kawhi Leonard actually led a team to a title. Kawhi Leonard is actually an alpha. Pippen was a great Robin, and that's what he was. But this whole thing of trying to uplift him, and I don't know if it's because people feel sorry for him because of the way he might have been portrayed in The Last Dance, or because they just secretly hate Jordan. But this whole little love of trying to pump up Scottie Pippen to make him bigger to what he is, it's absurd. And I just think it's real crazy, especially coming from the Clutch Sports camp, who claims, from somebody like LeBron James, who claims that Michael Jordan was his idol and that he loves him so much, but yet you do everything you can through your fucking mouthpieces to try to diminish his legacy. I don't get it. That shit pisses me off hearing him talk, because one, he's supposed to be an agent. Agents are supposed to be smart. He just sounds dumb. Because the last NBA Finals in 1998, Pippen didn't even do a damn thing. And Jordan fucking won that series for them and won that game to make sure that the Bulls win. So when you sit there, when you sit there and say, oh, if he didn't have Scottie Pippen, he'd be 0-6 in the final. He definitely won that series without Scottie Pippen, because Scottie Pippen didn't do shit that whole series. And then let's talk about the series before, when Jordan had the fucking flu game. Shouldn't that be the perfect time where your number 2, second best player step up? Why did Jordan have to have food poisoning and have a flu game and score 40 points in the key game 5 series to make sure that they go up 3-2 to possibly clinch the series? That alone should have been the game that Scottie Pippen should have been stepping up and carrying the scoring load instead of Jordan. And I just told you about this yesterday, Sasha. They don't talk about the 1990s Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals. Everybody's over here banging on Chet for only scoring 4 points in the Game 7. That nigga Scottie Pippen went 1 for 10 and had 4 points in the Game 7. And Jordan had 38. But Scottie Pippen's a fucking savior. Man, I told you, man, my blood just got me boiled up, man. Fuck out of here with this. Fuck out of here with this shit.
I'm glad
man.
he went first. That was
my bad, man. Let me hit these white people. I have to go see a counselor or therapist, man, because I got too wound up, man. Damn.
Go ahead, Tim Master.
Oh man, go ahead, Ricky.
Go ahead. Now, let's go with Pitmaster first before we bring in Rookie, man.
It's off of what he said. Like he was Jordan was his idol, and it's all about him. And it's just trying to, I guess, bring more. I don't know why they do it to bring more stability to LeBron's legacy. And I don't get me wrong, like the guy is a freakish athlete. Like to be able to play that long, and do what he's done and break all the records and all that stuff, like that's amazing. I'm not taking anything away from that. But the killer instinct for me, the easy out to go and form a big three, I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of it. I didn't care for it. I felt like, and being a Homer Spurs fan, right? Like the Spurs, they kept their core together, and guys, and they brought pieces around them that wanted that wanted to get a ring. It wasn't the way they did it. You know what I'm saying? It was just different. And Michael to me is always going to be the greatest that I've ever seen play, and clutch. You know what I'm saying? If you ask me who I'm going to give the ball to, who I want to take the shot, in the last seconds of the game, clear it out and give it to Mike and let him do his thing. If for me, it's like 9 times out of 10, he's going to win the fucking game. That's just what I saw growing up as a kid. Everybody wanted to emulate him, but he was a great defensive player as well. The whole Pippen thing, he was a great Robin. He was a great sidekick, but like you said, man, he didn't win it, but when he was by himself, and it's just, to me, yeah, like you said, trying to tarnish Jordan's greatness for whatever reason, because Jordan, when he walked away. He's like, I won 6. I did it 3 times in a row, twice. Like, what else do I have to prove? And he came back for the little stint with the Wizards, and he was still fucking competitive then. He was averaging 23 points a game, I believe, or something like that. But he had already done it all. It wasn't for him. It was like, what's left? That fire inside of those guys, sometimes they just can't let it go.
Mm-hmm.
They stick around a little bit longer than they should have. But to me, Michael's always going to be number one in my book. Kobe, I loved his game, and Michael said he stole all my moves. It was very well documented. That was like his little brother. But Kobe, that's the thing too. Like when Kobe came in, and they interviewed him as he got older and retired from the game. He's like, no wonder Mike's been dominating for so long. These guys get complacent. They don't. Then once they get the bag, they don't want to fucking work no more. And Kobe was like, no, I want it. I want that challenge. I want to be known as one of the greatest. I want to rival Michael. And it just seems like some people just wanted the easy way out. And I lost a lot of respect when LeBron did that, because I was like, this kid is something else when he came into the league, right? I was like, oh shit, like what are we witnessing? And then when he did that, I was just like, man, you could have done it on your own, bro. Like I feel like he could have still won a chip if he never done that. And to me that takes away from his legacy, no matter how many records he holds, in my opinion. But
okay, go ahead, Ricky.
In my opinion, I think it's a 1A and 1B type thing. I think Michael Jordan and LeBron are the greatest players that I didn't have knowledge about. I mean, I was able to see Mike at all, but when I saw LeBron growing up, and I haven't seen a league without LeBron, like in the NBA. Nothing to take away from Michael. I mean, yeah, Scottie was a great Robin, but you always have to have those pieces if you want to win a championship. Pippen only did good the 1 year when Mike retired. He won 57 games, finished top 3 in MVP, but he couldn't get him over the hump. And back to what Titus was saying, like that's your opportunity to show out you're the second greatest player in the world. But I just think it's funny because I always believe in players who will always get better throughout time. Like the rings that MJ has, yes, 6, 3 repeats, 2 3-peats. And then you look at Bill Russell's, we don't really have that same type of value to him because he played in the 60s. And then transition to the 90s, and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, those were the hard battles. But I just always think there's a 1A and 1B. I can't really have a clear-cut choice for the greatest player. I think all around what I've seen, I think LeBron will get your teammates involved. He's an all-around great player. But when it's talking about the greatest, I mean, Michael had a perfect career, like 6-0, 5 MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year as a guard, with Sidney Moncrief in the league still. It's hard to tarnish that. But I always have respect for the people that played ball before. Like I always think Larry's the second greatest small forward of all time. I won't put KD in there, and I won't put Kawhi in there. And I think Magic, I think he's the greatest point guard of all time. I just think it's always hard for someone in my era to talk with y'all about Michael and LeBron, but when you're wearing 23 your whole life, and then you go to 6 with the Heatles, and then you choke in 2011. And I think Dirk's ring is the heaviest ring of all time. You know, he had to play Kobe, had to play Brandon Roy and LaMarcus Aldridge. Then he had to play a young OKC team, and then he had to go play the Heatles. I think that's the greatest playoff ring in my eyes. Honestly, that's the heaviest and bloodiest ring of all time, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I think the value of rings
Yeah,
and
I like him.
players growing, in our sport, you won't see if Kyrie was dropped back into the 80s. Carrying would be called, then he have to be hand checking, so he get hand checked all the time. And I think when you do the matchups like 2017 Warriors against 96 Bulls, it depends on what era you're playing in. If they're playing in the 2017 era, I'm gonna have to go to the Warriors. But if you're going back to the hand checking, back to the bully ball in the 90s, I'm gonna have to go to the Bulls. But it's hard to always put two players from different eras together and always talk about who's the best and who's the greatest. But that's just my opinion on the matter. I think it's always 1A and 1B.
Well, I'm
See,
just
man,
saying
you're about the most sensible young cat that I know who knows basketball. Man, for real, man, you're on point. Because I'm gonna be real, man. I don't even really like when it comes to that discussion. I don't even like even talking to anybody who's not around my age who hasn't seen both of them play. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, how can you have an argument or discussion with somebody if you haven't seen? I mean, yeah, you can do a lot of research all you want, you can, but there's also a point where you have to literally see, you have to literally see it for yourself. You have to see what that Jordan looked like. You have to see what that prime LeBron looks like, because you gotta have the context, and that's the reason why I was saying, when I said young kid earlier, which I apologize for, but when I was saying young people, because I really do feel like that's their mission, is to try to put in the heads of these young people who didn't see Jordan play and try to spin shit that's not true. And meanwhile, it's y'all's generation that has so much access to shit to where you guys can look up this stuff yourself and see and be like, well, wait a minute, I'm being lied to on this. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, when you sit there and you say that Scottie Pippen was this and that, you can easily go on Basketball Reference and look at the numbers and be like, damn, he only averaged 10 points per game in the playoffs. Like, that wasn't a big contribution. But they never tell you that Jordan averaged 45 that series. Like, literally 45 points, and then the next person that had the second highest score was 10 points. That sounds like, to me, Jordan had a lot more to do with getting out of the first round than Scottie Pippen. And I just feel like they just tried to pollute these young people's minds with these daily debates of always bringing up Jordan and LeBron to make it a conversation so that they can have this discussion every single day. And sometimes it's just like, man, I don't think this shit is as close as you guys try to make it out to be on TV. They talk about how LeBron is still old and he's still balling, which he is putting up the good numbers. But the other thing they don't tell you about LeBron is they don't tell you his last MVP came when he was 28 years old. But all I hear about is longevity. And Jordan had 2 MVPs, one at 32, one at 34, finished second at the age of 33, and won 3 titles in his 30s. LeBron got a Mickey Mouse ring in his 30s and really hasn't done anything since then. But all I hear about is longevity. The LeBron fans will bring up the whole, he broke Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record. Now all of a sudden that's a big thing. First of all, when Michael Jordan retired, Michael Jordan was nowhere close to that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar record, and he was already labeled as the greatest player to ever play the game. Karl Malone is sitting second on, well, at the time, was sitting second on that list. Nobody in their right mind is taking Karl Malone over Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. And no one's saying that Karl Malone is a better scorer of Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant just because he's ahead of both Karl Malone, ahead of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list. But as soon as LeBron breaks the scoring list, he's the GOAT. So now their scoring record means it's a great accomplishment, but it's also an accomplishment that should be made when you come into the league at 18 years old and you've never had a major injury and you played for 23 years straight. Yeah, you probably should be able to break that record. He's not a sorry basketball player. But to sit there and even overhype that record, because we're going to see plenty of guys that's going to, hell, probably within the next 5 years, Jordan might not even be in the top five when it comes to the all-time scoring. And you mean to tell me the guys that'll pass him up, as Ricky brought up earlier, James Harden, you don't mean to tell me that motherfucker's a better scorer of the basketball than Michael Jordan just because he would have scored more points than Jordan in his career? Kevin Durant? Like they just be making up shit to try to. Yeah, I'm sorry, Sasha. Go, man, you already know how I am. Sasha, go ahead, Sasha. Go ahead.
I mean, man, you cool because right now, shoot, you because okay, Pitmaster, you said it best. You know, when I was younger, dang, I gotta go behind this motherfucker right now. So, let me see what I can do. All right, so when I was younger, I know one thing because again, me and Titus, we you know, I'm gonna give you a backstory real quick about me and Titus. Funny thing about Titus, I thought when I first met him was back, it was 22 years ago, and it was around the time it was like around the NCAA. They were doing their conference playoffs, and when I met him, I thought that, of course, when I knew sports, so I didn't think he understood the sports. So I thought I was going to out-talk him. No, actually, Titus was putting me on game about a lot of shit. I'm like, oh, damn. So me and him, you know, when we talk, you know, I talk to him about sports. We have heated debates. So I was expecting to have a heated debate, and you know about that. And then you know, like how me and you, we talk sports. Nah, me and this man, we really get into it. So right now, I'm over here. I agree with them. I'm trying to find a way to disagree with them, but I can't disagree with them about that thing when it comes about Jordan. You know, with Scottie Pippen, I get sick and tired of hearing about that. Me and my younger brother, he was basically brought up the same thing. Jordan couldn't get all the first round until Scottie Pippen got there. Okay, do you know who the team that Chicago
Exactly.
Exactly. Y'all remember who they had to go up against? They had to go up against the Milwaukee team. Milwaukee wasn't sorry at that time. So I mean, yeah, and then and again they went up against the Celtics 2 times. They got so.
And when they finally broke through, it was like, wasn't it? It was New York, and then I forget who else they beat, and then they fucking had to beat the Pistons. They had one back to back. The bad boys, like.
Yeah, you know who they were going up against. Yeah, you know they finally got through against Cleveland. You know, they had to go. They got put out by the Pistons. They went 7 games against the Knicks and then lost again to the Pistons. You know, they struggled. They had to go through it. They had to go through their trials and tribulations. And you know, and I think Titus said it best because it's funny. I didn't know about the migraine because this is before I started watching basketball. But I listened to this man, and he was talking about how the city of Chicago hated Scottie Pippen because of that. and then when on the last chapter, they talked about like, oh man, so this shit was true. Because I didn't know about that, but it took him to finally grab his ball and say, okay, you know, let's get past this. And after that, then they finally started winning. And was took those trials and tribulations, but Michael was already great. He was already considered one of the greatest scorers. He was already MVP. And you know all this other stuff. It just took for the team to come together so they can finally do it. Cool, fine, but they made it to seem like when Scottie came into the league, he was averaging 25 and 10, and Michael was like averaging 27 and 9. That's the way how I listen to everybody. Scottie, yeah, he's a good defender. And he's a good all around player. He can be considered probably a top 10 small forward of all time. We could put him on that list, but it is true. If you are that guy, you are number 2. You need to step the fuck up when your A isn't there. I was thinking about in 2000 when it was 2000 when the Lakers were playing the Pacers. Shaq went out when he fouled out.
That's right. Yeah.
And
said, "I got this."
Kobe. Yep.
Kobe stepped up because I was thinking the moment Shaq went out, I'm thinking the Pacers were going to win. Kobe stepped up and did and took them to the promised land. Yeah, that's what you need to do. So when your man is gone, when your man is gone, the number one is on. That's where your number two steps up, and he's supposed to. I don't recall any game. Titus, help me out here because you watch basketball longer than me, especially Chicago basketball. I don't recall any game that when Michael ain't got it, Scottie got it. It's like he always concedes to him. Am I right or am I wrong?
I mean, you've known me for 22 years. You've heard me bitch and complain about Scottie all the time. I mean, like I said, man, Scottie was a hell of a player, but no. The example you just brought up, because I forgot about that too, Kobe. What Kobe did, that's what is required of your number two guy. When your number one may be struggling or if he fouls out, or that's the reason. That was exactly the reason why I brought up the flu game when it came to the Jordan Pippen comparison, because if Jordan was rolling to the arena damn near on his deathbed, and we saw how sick he all looked and everything, that should have been the perfect game for Scottie right then to show his ass. Jordan shouldn't have had to score, I think it was 38 points in that game, and do all the shit that he had to do just for them to win that game. That should have been Scottie Pippen's Kobe Bryant moment right there. So that Kobe comparison is right on the head. But back to your question, no, man. But that's the reason why I said, man, going back to living that time, real time, I know the things that were said about Pippen. And that's the truth. It's not so much that it's the truth that, yes, when Pippen got there, the Bills got better. Of course they did. One, because Mike wasn't joking when he was talking about how the Bulls were constructed when he first got there. He was playing around a bunch of crackheads. Like that's not me trying to be funny or anything. Like, that's the truth, because that's the way that the NBA was back in the days. They had a lot of guys in the league that was using drugs and all this shit and everything that were his teammates. And you bring in younger guys, Pippen and everything, but like I was telling Sasha, because I was talking to Sasha more in depth about this, but if you notice with Scottie Pippen, each year when he started to get better and better, the Bulls were getting better and better and better. So the narrative isn't that Scottie Pippen saved them. The true story is, as Pippen got better and better and better, the Bulls got better, and that's when they started to take off, because his first 3 years when they played the Pistons, when the Bulls lost to the Pistons, those 3 years in a row, he was absolute dog shit in all three of those series. And like I told Sasha, I went on Basketball Reference just to refresh my mind. Every year that they stepped into that Pistons, there would be one series where he'd average like 16 or 20 points per game in one series, right? I think it was like in the second round. I want to say that was his second year. Turn around and play the Pistons, his shit dropped down to 15 points per game. Then in the third year, his point total dropped again. But then in that fourth year, when they finally beat the Pistons and swept them, that was the first time he actually played well against the Pistons, and then they swept them. And then from there, they started to take off. So it's like I said, like, Scottie Pippen, good player. He just, like, this whole thing of making him out to be more than he was, and it's like, man, you guys were in the Chicago area when we had to watch the news, and his toughness was literally questioned, because the whole Jordan rules was set around Jordan, but the other part of the Jordan rules was for Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen, because they were young pups, and the Pistons knew that they could punk them because they knew that they were young. Because remember, when Pippen first got there, that was his rookie year. The first year he lost to the Pistons, out of those 3 years in a row, they lost. That was Pippen and Horace Grant's first year. They knew that they could get the Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen mentally and physically, and they were beating them up. And then they had these other set of rules for Jordan. So that's why.
Oh yeah.
And I hate, man. Yeah, go ahead, y'all.
Yeah, now there's a lot of truth to that, man. Like, and then the other part of that is great players push their teammates to play better than what they think they can play or what they think they're capable of playing, and that's the aura, that's the greatness. That's what makes get you the push. Like Nick Saban and fucking Belichick and these coaches, the Phil. As much as Phil always had to take a jab, he was a great coach. Popovich, they figured out a way to get the best out of their players, and they held everybody at a standard and to an accountability. And as Jordan got better and saw that he had to get his body stronger because they were going to beat the shit out of him every time they played Detroit, he knew what it was going to take to get over that hump. And those other guys eventually, they won't be as great as him, but they will play at a higher level
right
as they grow. You know.